Go.
That was like one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life.
I think that's the most fun we had in study program.
I enjoyed it.
I love that. It was just good ball. That's what it was.
It made my daddy proud.
Howdy!
Howdy!
Okay, so as you may or may not have heard, there's a new plan out to require mandatory meal plans for people living on campus. And so no matter how you feel about it, what we've done today is we basically called this open forum so that people can come and voice their opinions about their concerns, what they like, what they don't like, just what they want the administration to know about student opinion on this plan. And what we're going to do with this is I'm the Speaker Pro Tem of Student Senate, so I represent them. And Catherine Nattinger is the President of the Residence Hall Association. And what we're going to do is we are going to be passing resolutions that basically express student opinion on this upcoming plan. And so in order to do that, we need to know what student opinion is. And that's what you guys are here for. So this isn't going to be like a really formal discussion or anything like that. It's just going to be this is a forum for you to talk about how you feel about the plan, say what you think people need to hear, and just generally make your voice heard.
In the back, there is a video camera. It's facing this way, so it's not really going to catch faces or whatever, but that way we have a record of everything everyone says so that we don't miss anything. At the front, Gail Ramsey from RHA is also taking notes, just so we get everything covered. Like you said, it's very informal. We kind of just want to know what you think, what you like or dislike. In the back, if you'll notice, there's people from both dining services and residence life. So if questions arise between them and us, hopefully we will be able to answer them. But we really just want to kind of start out with the proposal's been online. This is one of the pages of it. Just a quick overview of it's $1,200 if you're a freshman or sophomore. And it would be $800 junior, senior. It'll be phased in starting fall of 2012 for freshmen. In fall of 2013, it'll be freshmen and sophomores. 2014, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and so on. And then there's the current cost of rent per semester from the type of fall. So just kind of start out with this proposal. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it. I know it's been in the back. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you think about it? And we'll just kind of stay up here and call and make sure everything's just focused. But, you know, we're good.
I actually have a question. How does this affect members of the Corps of Cadets?
I don't believe it does.
That would be
How does it come out?
The Corps of Cadets already have a required meal plan.
Right, but isn't this different than what they have?
There would still be larger plans for the cadets.
They'll still be able to get their...
Yeah, they can buy a larger plan if they want.
And they can still get their all-you-can-eat when you go to Dunkin'.
Yeah.
Anybody like?
Will there be exemptions for students with food allergies or food intolerances that are not currently accommodated for by dining services?
I believe so, and he's nodding in the back, so I'm going to go with yes. I know he said many times there's an appeal process.
What will be required? I'm representing a fairly large group of parents tonight, and they're all very curious.
That would be.
We haven't worked that out yet.
Yeah, because like sometimes with the food intolerances, your medical diagnosis is altered. So, and there's been some legal action at other universities. So they were trying to prepare because their students are coming up soon that will be affected by this.
They'll be working on that, I'm sure, between now and January. We'll be spending.
Okay.
Trying to get this. And there's seats up at the front if you want to come in. Over here. And some right over here. There was a hand over.
Yes. What is the purpose of this? Is it just for Sally A&M to make more money?
Well, it's for dining services to increase their revenue because currently they're operating at basically they're breaking even pretty much. Is that correct?
Before depreciation and interest, we run close to break even with a small loss. So a small negative operating income over the last several years, but to the tune of $100,000 or something on a $30 million business.
And this is to improve dining services overall.
So with meal plans costing $650, to provide a drink, an entree, and a side, it's still losing us money at A&M when I guess other competitors outside of this market can provide that for $5. Like what is it? Like, why are we losing the money? Like, if McDonald's can do it, and Subway can do it, and Wendy's can do it, like, make meals that are under $6.50. I mean, $6.50. Like, I'm a student on campus, and I'm going a year now without having a meal plan, and it's not because like I'm a cheap or anything. I just don't feel like $6.50 every time I want a meal is reasonable. Like, I mean, why is it A&M, like the college campus, able to provide the economies of scale, like outside of the A&M market, you know? Like, have we tried to do that or achieve it, like, and talk to people who we're getting our food from, like Benny Keith or like anything like that?
I don't know, and that's exactly what we want to hear right now. Just like, what do you think? Like, why should we or should we not have this?
Deeply, I hear mention that it's going to improve dining services. That's correct. The idea is to improve dining services. My concern is I don't think that isolating university dining services from competition does anything good for customer service. And I would be very concerned about what would happen if there is no competition for them. And the choice that students have to eat different places is taken away.
I lived in Briggs. It's a corridor. It's one of the cheapest dorms you can live in because it was the cheapest. And my roommate freshman year did not have a meal plan. She ate a salad for lunch every day and a microwavable dinner every day. She spent less than $5 on food per day pretty much that way. And because she paid her own rent, she paid her own tuition. So how is it justified to increase that cost on her by 76%?
Something that was mentioned on the Facebook group, I actually was posting questions on there and discussing with another fellow. But I said, what if your rent doubled? And to which he replied, I would move to a different place. I get the idea here that if you double the rent effectively, it's almost double of Walton and Hart, that you're effectively that portion of on-campus students is going to take that logic and they're going to say, oh, I'm just going to move to a different place. There are reasons why Walton and Hart are chosen, and it's because they are logical choices for people who want to live cheaply on campus. And if you're going to double that, you're taking away an opportunity for people to live on campus.
I too come from like a dorm that's like it's a corridor, like more $1,500. And he's right. People think logical. I mean, not all of us were. I mean, a lot of people do come here and they have money to spend. But I mean, there's a good amount of people who don't have money to spend and need to cut costs here and there. I mean, not all of us are privileged for and a choice for everybody is better than one thing for everybody.
Yeah, I'm curious. I was in the Corps for my first semester here, and the Corps had required meal plans for quite some time, and it's my impression that Dunkin' is one of the lowest quality dining services on campus, and that's been a required payment for a while now. They haven't improved Dunkin'. How can we expect all dining services to improve all over campus?
And anybody else, just you can kind of chime in. We're not calling on people, just like if it were changed, maybe if it were still required, but if it were maybe an outside amount or something like that, would you be more apt to agree with it? Just any kind of opinion like that.
Well, my question is, my understanding is university dining and Department of Residence have two separate auxiliary organizations within the university. What gives dining services the right to require something of somebody who's a member of another auxiliary? And does this not set a dangerous precedent? I mean, what's to keep the athletic department from requiring everybody who's on campus to buy sports packs as well? I mean, how is that any different?
Residence Life did sign off on the proposal. If you see the proposal memo, there are actually several levels of administrators who signed off on the plan in succession. So I think it was, in fact, you can scroll to that part. It went through So it went through David Riddle and Sherry Riddle, first, they're the directors of dining services and residence lunch respectively. Then it went to Lala Howard, then Dave Parrott, then Thomas Saley. It went through a bunch of people before it finally got to President Lofton.
So what you're saying is it went through a bunch of people who will never have to pay the $1,200 in their life.
Yes.
Well, President Lofton still technically does live on campus.
What does that make? That means that any other outside organization or different thing like Sports Pass, that means if they get enough signatures, they're gonna charge people to do that.
I mean, it's like if parking, if transportation services need a positive parking, that's even for students who don't have cars. And for students who choose not to use dining services, so it's not in particular that place.
And then like I live in FHK, we have kitchens, there's people that live there, we cook our own food. So why are you gonna force us to buy other food if you don't need to purchase a meal plan? We have our own methods of having our own ways of eating.
You can buy cookbooks that deal entirely with the art of microwave cooking. You can cook baked potatoes and scrambled eggs and all sorts of things in microwaves. I know at least two good friends of mine who live in Clements Hall, which is a modular building, that don't have meal plans, and they can afford to live in a modular building easily because they choose to have a eating style that is cheap enough that they can afford the higher rent of a modular.
I guess I'm curious, what student groups were consulted on this? I mean, you're RHA and student government, so was anybody consulted on the students?
At the end of last semester, there was a focus group with a lot of students. And then Jacob Robinson also was told. And then last week and the week before that, I personally met with David Riddle, and I knew Jacob Robinson did as well. And David Riddle came and spoke at an RHA meeting last week. And that's kind of when this kicked off because there was some student feedback about it. And so that's when we decided we really wanted to get actual.
Just like from what I've seen, it's already been approved. So was it like just you were told this was going to happen, or was you discussing it?
I knew about the big idea last semester, and we kind of discussed what was happening. If you actually read through the whole proposal, it does mention the focus group and things that they thought. I was actually part of the focus group as well. Things, concerns and questions, and things that were raised. But other than that, I'm not sure. I think you could ask a little. I wasn't taught to really this summer, but I know Residence Life was heavily spoken to, obviously, because it's signed. So I don't know if necessarily between last semester and this being signed if there was. There's also a dining services committee that I know meets, and I don't know if it met over the summer, but I do know that they meet and they were had been talking about this as well.
So does the committee live on campus too?
The committee has 2 representatives from the Residence Hall Association. I don't actually know if they met over the summer, but I know they met last year with reps, and then last week they started meeting again with 2 reps from RHA.
So 2 reps are basically representing all of the student body on campus?
Kind of. There are other student reps from other organizations. There are 2 from student government. One of them is Chris Russo, who's right over there. And then the other one is Oliver Tillman from Executive Council. He's from Senate. So, and then I think there are also some from Graduate Student Council. I'm not sure about that though.
So the total number of focus group is
Of the focus group?
Yeah.
19.
19.
19 students in the focus group.
And then 12 students from Dining Services Committee, I believe. So 31 roughly.
And for the record, the focus group, I mean, I was part of that, and I didn't support it. And I know Brian was part of it, and he wasn't thrilled on the idea either.
I think the other important thing to remember is the dining service advisory board changes every year for the most part. So each year it's new students who have to kind of be brought up to speed and catch up on what's going on. So it's not necessarily the people in the positions currently who were consulted about that decision.
And I think getting back to the original question, like there was a general between RHA and student government and a lot of other organizations, I think we all knew this was out there. But at the same time, I don't think anyone really knew this was reaching the decision phase until the decision had already been made. And that's when they started coming to RHA meetings and meeting with Catherine and myself and Hillary. Hillary Albright is the Speaker of the Senate, by the way.
So they did that after it was already approved?
That was after it was already approved.
So they did it over the summer while the students were here? Sneakily.
So by your count, 31 people made this decision, or what?
They were consulted on it. I wouldn't say they made the decision. The focus group was last spring.
Okay.
And if there was no plan at the time, it was just kind of what would you say if we did this? This is kind of the plans from other schools. What do you like? What do you not like? What would you prefer? Things like that.
Okay, so basically the people on this sheet signed off on this, helped make this decision, and then consulted 31 students on a matter that would affect all of on-campus students who weren't involved in this decision-making process, and an entire group of students who are not even going to be present until 2012.
This was actually signed after the focus group. This was signed on the 9th of September. The focus group was last spring.
Well,
Yeah.
what I'm saying though is that the group that is being affected by this had, and effectively it's the class of 2016 and onwards that is the main group being affected by this, had no representation whatsoever in this because they're not students yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Okay, I'm an honor Rappel. This is my third year on campus. One of the big things I like about being on campus is the fact that it's convenient. I can wake up 5 minutes before class and still make it. I've had a meal plan every year, and I plan to continue doing it. One of the big things that I think keeps people on campus is that convenience. Because honestly, you can get an apartment on campus for a lot cheaper than you can live in a dorm, especially from my building like Rappel. Basically, I mean, you can get the same size or bigger for a considerable amount cheaper. My dorm's about 75% freshman. That's been for quite a few years. There's
dining services members, but suppose it wasn't. Suppose they just rented out the space and third parties were completely responsible for feeding students on campus.
Are you guys trying to keep them out of our facilities, like on campus, like people like McDonald's and like something? Like I just really like, if you guys are trying to keep it just a dining service that runs the food show on campus, I can understand. But are you guys
We have two brands on campus now.
Oh, okay.
Chick-fil-A and Which Wich. We are putting out an RFP for a brand in the MSC for Asian food concept. So I have nothing wrong with brands. I mean, and we're in discussions with probably 3 or 4 other national
cost-effective brands. I know Which Wich's not the most cost-effective thing ever. Chick-fil-A. I mean, there's no dollar menu on the Chick-fil-A and waffle fries. Like, I mean, cost-effective brands that are meeting the students' needs. I mean, even though it's not like, it's not like P.F. Chang's or it's not like Lane's. Like, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of quality of my food, but as long as it meets my needs and it's cost effective, like, I'm totally alright with that. And I just want to know, are you guys trying to keep out other competition, or do you want the dining services just to run the show on campus and hire, like, I guess, Which Wich? And
no, those were decisions that were made before I got here. I think the way this ought to work, and the way it works at the majority of the schools that I've studied, is that the dining program should be able to provide as good or better a product at a lower price, because we don't have to pay franchise fees. We don't have to buy. Once you bring in another company, you have to buy their products through their distributor at a fixed price. You have really no room to negotiate on it. You also pay royalties and licensing fees and things like that. So, yeah, my vision for the department is a blend of national brands, because I think anytime a national brand can do something better than we can do it, we should look at it. And I also think that we should also have a good mix of our own brands that are well done, good food at a reasonable price, because it's going to drive more money back to the department at the end of the day for upgrades, improvements, things like that.
I think one of the things that I think a lot of people understand is that we do have a system at Texas A&M University where we're divided into two different types of business models. And those business models are the university itself, which your tuition and fees and monies go to, and that receives money from the state of Texas. We receive the same amount of money, though we are a land-grant institution, and this was brought up a little bit earlier. We receive no money in terms of being a land-grant institution. We receive the same percentage of money of other states in Texas. The land-grant status was the land and how that was decided to be used when the Morale Act was passed. But that's all higher ed history, right, Alicia? What we are is we're considered in residence life, dining, athletics, and transportation services, we're considered auxiliaries. The institution, Texas A&M University, decided several years ago that those 4 entities could be self-sustaining financially. The institution wanted to make the most cost-effective, and we've all talked about the value of Texas A&M. And one of the ways the institution, Texas A&M University, said, you know what, we can make this a cheaper price for people to go here. They actually took those 4 services and said, you all figure out how to do this on your own. And then students said, oh, by the way, now it is cheaper my tuition, but I have to pay extra for housing, extra for these things. And that happens back in the late 1980s, early 1990s, when those auxiliaries were formed. As those auxiliaries were formed, we have to completely run ourselves. We receive $0 from Texas A&M University. In fact, we pay an auxiliary fee, tax, I call it, though I'm not supposed to call it a tax. We pay an auxiliary fee to Texas A&M University, which for housing is 3.25% of our budget, which is approximately $419,000 a month. That, in addition to our climbing utility fees, which just the residents' life, our utilities on average are $1 million a month for our 30-plus buildings on campus. So as the utility fee goes up and those types of things, that's how we're impacted. So when you think about how are these prices determined and where is all this coming from, both entities, and I agree, our residence halls are falling apart. I think they're very tired. Some of them are very historic buildings, and I know that we'll plan to renovate and keep them. But other buildings, particularly their infrastructures, which you cannot see, the wiring, the inside plumbing, those types of things, are not holding what they need to do in terms of residence life. And if you want to see that information, I'd be glad to share that with you. But what we need to do is we need to look at how do we provide and pay for all of those fees and still give the students the best service possible. And that's what we do every day as we struggle and we walk that tightrope of how are we supposed to do that. So that's where sometimes you're like, how are these prices established? Because we have all these things we need to pay.
And we have 9 months to do it.
Yes, 9 months.
Not even a full
Summer-
9 months,
summer
so
doesn't count.
in that sense, we're not really like the market.
Well,
because
how
we
much,
have a very short
how much
year.
profit, I guess, or total revenue is this plan you have? Like, what are the figures you have? Because I'm pretty sure you guys already have like end results on like the maximum occupancy on
Yeah,
campus.
and it's all that.
I'm pretty sure
all
like,
that
it's all
analysis is in the
everything
memo,
in there.
and the memo's on Residence Life's website, but.
So the profit yields for, I guess, dining services are going to be on Res Life?
They're right here in this
They're in
memo.
there in the
as well.
memo.
But the
Print
memo
one,
is
it's hard.
online if you want to go.
They're transparent, everything's in this letter.
So, yeah, the second paragraph up there says under this updated recommendation, dining is projected to achieve annual operating income that's 7.5% greater than its operating expenses. Now, after you generate your operating income, then you have to take out interest payments on debt and depreciation. And so I still run incredibly tight.
I just want to know, like, I'm just really puzzled of how you guys are running.
I run a building that's built in 1935. I run a building that's built in 1912. My utility bills in Savisa alone a month are about $45,000.
Like, so is it? So I guess it's
so
like
there's a lot of infrastructure, and we also have a lot of locations. The geography of this campus, when I went out and looked at other campuses, some of them are nice and tight and compact and a great walking campus. And so they've got 2 or 3 dining halls that can serve the entire student body, and they can ask everybody to go back to those dining halls in between classes. You know, we've got really effectively 2 campuses with a railroad running through the middle of it. And if I've got somebody who say lives on the north side, but they're taking classes on the west campus, it's unfair to me to ask them to come back to Savisa for lunch. And so we operate a lot of locations on campus, largely driven by the fact that it's a very large campus and everything's really spread out. And so as you operate more and more locations, you lose some economies of scale. And so, you know, in the old days, everybody had to go to Savisa. I mean, not one that long ago, actually, 1999, 2000. If you were on a meal plan, you either had to go to the Commons cafeteria, you had to go to Dunkin', or you had to go to Savisa. Otherwise, you had to come up with cash to eat at any other location. We achieved a great economy of scale, and we thought about that, but then we also said, how practical is that for students? Now, because with the dining dollar model, you've got complete flexibility and control. You can eat wherever you want, however you want, and probably use the money a lot more wisely than paying $6.50 for breakfast when you really only want a muffin and a cup of coffee.
So $6.50 today in dining dollars will buy me close to $6.50 as it would as I buy a drink, an entree, and a side, like versus like if you tag it on individually versus a whole group.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, we're looking at so $1,200 is $10.70 a day for food, and so we want to. Our challenge is to figure out a way to get 2 meals out of that a day, and so we're going to use on the retail side of things. We'll use combo meals. If you really want to eat a lot, Savisa is still going to be the place to come. It'll still operate as an all-you-can-eat operation. But then again, I think if you want to eat small snacks throughout the day, you've got the option of doing that also. One important thing too is that a lot of dining programs rely on something called a missed meal factor. So it's kind of like selling insurance policies or something like that. And you're counting on a certain number of people not redeeming it.
Yeah.
Sell minutes.
Like the ACDC program. Like, you guys know familiar with that, the ACDC program? Like
the
kids who
donate.
had a bunch, like, I mean, every semester, no matter like how much you pay, there's always kids in the core, there's always kids on campus. You see them, like with boxes of Monster, boxes of Powerade, like bag full of chips. And I mean, like, and they're not even spending it on meals, because it'd be dumb to buy like a bunch of meals. You're not gonna eat all of them. So you're gonna buy like packs of Monster. But I mean, that's another thing too. Like, I mean, that's a significant
At the schools that have
yield.
implemented this model, the missed meal factor has gone down to less than 2%. Right now, we run about a 9% missed meal factor, which is about half of what most universities run. So we are somehow creating a system where the students can receive more value than other schools are, but we want to even drive that out further and try to get it down to a model that's more honest, which is give students complete control over their expenses, and we just need, in order to keep the kind of current infrastructure and improve it and maintain it, we just need to get folks, residents, to use our services at a certain level, so we're not underutilized, which is what's the situation right now.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more comments. So if you have not spoken yet and you want to speak, raise your hand. Okay, if you've only spoken once and you want to speak, raise your hand. Okay, it's going to be you then first.
You can go. Okay. There's two things I wanted to talk about. One, so we're talking about just meal factors. Someone over there, I don't remember who, was talking about how they have the lowest meal plan and still they have money rolling over. Well, if you have a $1,200 meal plan, if you have, even just $100 left over, if you can only spend $1,100 in one semester, what makes you think you can spend $1,300 the next semester? And I would imagine that people would have more than $100, and they're going to be trying to spend even more of that in the second semester. And if you go into the C-store at the end of the semester, it's already crazy scary without that extra 1,000 people having a mandatory $1,200 meal plan. So I'm not sure how that's going to be accommodated for. And then having that, large amount of mandatory money that you were supposed to be spending, I'm wondering what the missed meal factor percentage will change to after that. And then just something else that I wanted the group to consider when thinking about this, that is thinking about the IB core values and how does this fit into this. When we think about integrity and respect and selfless service, and how does trying to fix one problem by hindering another group of people, how does this have to do with the Aggie core values, and what do we think of that as Aggies?
My question is kind of, is there ever a point that you project that you'll be able to take this away, like you would make enough money to where you would have your improvements, you would have been able to do everything, and people would be coming to you, that you could repeal this, or is this going to be forever?
Well, personally, I'd take a lot more professional pride in running a voluntary program than I would in running a required program. I think I'd have bragging rights amongst my peers if I could pull it off on a voluntary basis. So absolutely. And we're talking 2 years out. And a lot of this, requesting this approval from the president was driven by the need to do some improvements and our inability to make commitments to move forward with those improvements without some knowledge that the economics will change for the positive for us in a couple of years. In 2 years, if things are a little different and in better shape, I'm a very open director, I hope, with my financials, with my business situation. We have an advisory committee. If we can do it differently, we will. Also, we're going to take Residence Life and Dining is going to take a very close look at this in the first year, and if we don't see a reduction in our missed meal factor, if we still see that $1,200 is so much is left over, and we're having runs on the C-stores at the end of the semesters, that's not a good thing. That's something we hope to eliminate. If we see a change in the demographics of campus, that's not a positive outcome. But we need to give this we need to give this a chance because it does. If we can achieve this without affecting occupancy rates in a negative way and some of the other demographic issues that were brought up, we'll be able to make this campus a much nicer place to live.
All right, and I guess that's probably all for question and answer. I guess moving forward, it does really sound like basically everything we're going to post is this plan. You pretty much agree with that? Yeah. So I guess for y'all's information, the legislation we have pending in Senate and in RHA, both of those pieces of legislation also oppose the plan. So one of them was written by me, and then one of them was written by Mr. Spencer here in RHA. But over the next couple of weeks, I guess the timeline is kind of going to look like this. On Wednesday, we're going to, which is tomorrow, we're going to decide in committee whether to pass that out of committee. Tuesday will be the RHA meeting, and then Wednesday will be the General Senate meeting. And I think all of those are open door. And we'll probably send out a notice on the Facebook group for this event, like with all of this information in there. At student senate meetings, we very, very much encourage people to show up in open forum. It basically you just get 2.5 minutes to talk about whatever you want. Is it 2.5 minutes or?
Yeah, it's 2.5, but I would caution to not just talk about whatever you want, like keep it to the point and just be sure. Because those meetings get long, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But like, definitely come in and speak. It's gonna be at 7 p.m. a week from tomorrow in Coldus. And a lot of people do tune in and watch those meetings. Dr. Lofton pays attention to what's going on. David Riddle will be speaking, giving a presentation. So definitely come in and raise these same points so everyone can hear them instead of the other people just sitting here. So, people do know that this is what students support. And so that bill does pass and gets passed on to different people within the administration.
And I would stress that if you only have a couple minutes to come in right at 7 o'clock and voice your opinion, still do that, because if you can leave and you have an internet access of any kind, you can watch the Senate meeting streamed live on the Senate's website during the meeting.
And actually, this is being streamed live on the website also.
So Hillary, your epic
And on the RHA side, like you said, we have a meeting on Tuesday. There will be legislation posted on the website. Per our Constitution, it needs to be 48 hours before the meeting. And it's voted on by the hall councils who are recently elected. If you don't know your hall council, I really stress that you come to the meeting on Tuesday because they're all required to be there. And so that will be voted on then. And then there's also the survey out on the RHA website. I don't know if you've all filled it out. If you haven't, you should. If you have further comments today that didn't get voiced, I realized we kind of stopped it, but we also felt it was getting a little repetitive. But if you have further comments, you can fill out the survey. I'd love to hear from you. I get an email every time, and it's really exciting. And then also, you can always email me. I'm sure you can email Scott and Hillary. Any concerns, any other comments you may have. If you already filled out the survey, go ahead and email me things you may think of later, because we really want to know what students think. We want to know what everybody feels about this, because like I said at the beginning, the 4 of us were elected. The other senators in the room were elected, and maybe their on-campus students isn't their constituency, but they were elected by students. I was elected by on-campus students, and so I care what is going to affect students, and I care what on-campus students think about issues. So email me. I check it all the time.
And the other thing, I don't know about RHA, but for Senate, for any bill we pass, any student can write a piece of legislation. So if you want to be added to the bill opposing this and have 50 students all just like all their names on the bill, like just contact Scott and your name can be put on it just so that they have it.
And I guess contact information, I'll send that out also, but for myself, I guess, if y'all yeah, we'll have a posting on the website, senate.pin.edu. Hers is president@rha.pin.edu. My personal email is scottnoah12@gmail.com. In case anyone wants to send me anything.
This goes to my Gmail.
The student body president would also probably want to hear from you as well. That's svp@pin.edu.
Could I make a request on a different matter? My name is Carol Binzer and I work in residence life, and one of the things I'm trying to do is get some student feedback for the consultant who's going to be working on the core hall renovation. And we'd like to meet with people who have lived in other residence halls than the core one tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And I have a few people who are able to come, but because it's during the main part of the class day, not a lot of people available. If anybody would like to talk to the consultant who will be working on the core hall renovation tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I would love to host you. Thank you.
Where?
Are you talking like the actual core dorms?
Yes.
Okay.
Where is that again?
It's here.
So that's pretty much it. I'll be around if you want to talk. I love to talk. And for real, send me emails. I check them. I've got like, I literally have like 500-600 emails from survey results, and every time I get one, I get excited. It's really sad. But yeah.
And thank you all for coming.
Yeah, it's good to get personal student opinion rather than just surveys. As excited as I am to get them.